Good evening and welcome back to Points in the Paint, sponsored by For Fantasy's Sake. I am Doug. He is Sam. We are back to talk a little NBA. We have not done this in a while, but
Yeah.
we are excited to be back. Sam, I want to start by talking about our Bulls because
Yep.
they are first place in the East,
Uh-huh.
looking real good, and they have been playing shorthanded for like the last month.
Yeah.
So really excited for when they finally get the whole thing kind of put back together. But what have you seen here since the start of the year? What have you
Um
seen? What have you enjoyed?
I've enjoyed following them and obviously watching them all year long. Like I said, my biggest thing with them is I'm just the lack of size
Mhm.
when we get in the postseason versus teams like Milwaukee and Brooklyn. But I love that we have and we legitimately have the Bulls legitimately have five guys who are, point guards, playmakers, whatever you want to call them. Lonzo, Zach, DeMar DeRozan, as you've seen, the few game winners. But then you also have Kobe White on the bench, and you have Dosumu on the bench. And you have those guards who can come in and they can create offense for other guys. And that kind of, and the three that I named the first, DeMar, Zach, and Lonzo, it kind of reminds me of OKC when they had Harden, Westbrook, and Durant because they put so much pressure on teams because they had three guys who can get their own points or create for others. And then you see how the other guys can feed off of that. Like the guys like God, I can't think of their names now. Um Todd, some of the guys we have, the role players, and their names are slipping. I literally can't remember their names now, but those guys off bench, Tyler Cook, Caruso, defensively. I love Caruso. I've been watching him since he played with the Lakers. Um, other can get get offense, you know what I'm saying, and it just makes it easier for everybody. I love the way the Bulls are playing defense. I think they will be a tough, they're going to be a tough team. And yeah, like I said, my goal last year was to make the playoffs, but we're definitely going to make it this year. So I want to see Zach get that postseason run under his belt, and Zach's play with Team USA and reach such accolades. You know what I'm saying? I want to see Kobe. I think Lonzo made the playoffs with the Pelicans maybe once or something, or maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if Lonzo's been in the playoffs. I don't think Lonzo's been in the playoffs either. No, so we got a lot of young guys, and I want to see them kind of get that postseason experience. Patrick Williams, who
Mhm.
also on the forward, he might make a return, which will give us some added size, and he's a good defender. Somebody we could throw on Giannis, somebody we could throw on someone like the Durants, the wing guys. Oh yeah, and I can't remember the guy's name is freaking Derek Jones Jr.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I love this team and this and that, and I love the future too. We're still, we're kind of, flexible still because I think what I would do, and I mean, in my unpopular opinion, is I would trade Kobe White next season because
Mhm.
it's the last year of his rookie deal. And I mean, there's just not enough minute. He needs more minutes. He's good, and he needs to be on a team where he's getting more minutes. And it's just obviously with the Bulls having those, three guys, and maybe you still have Caruso and Desumu playing well as a rookie. I think maybe you move Kobe White next year before he gets an extension, and then maybe get some draft picks or some other players or something back, and then you have Desumu pick up those backup guard minutes, and then you can also maybe get a big or something. You could still retool your roster. Kobe's only 21, and he's a phenomenal player, but
Mhm.
obviously with Lonzo being there, what I'm saying, he's going to limit his minutes, and I think Kobe on a good team could probably average like 20 plus points easily. So I think he might be our biggest bargaining chip next year for a team that needs a nice young guard. We might be able to kind of get something really valuable for Kobe. So we're set up to win now and then in the future. Like I mean, I'm looking at the roster now as we speak. Guys like Alfonso McKinney, Tyler Cook, who went to Iowa. I went to Iowa with, or
Mhm.
yeah, went to Iowa as well. And I've always followed his career. He's a 6'8", kind of like a Kenneth Fareed, dunker, but he athletic, big. And then now we have Jordan Bell. So we got some, and Tony Bradley. We got some bigs now on the roster. We're gonna need them, because Vucevic is just Vucevic by himself. But some of these bigs are unproven too. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bulls shape up. The East in itself is kind of it feels like it's a two-team race between the Bulls and the Nets. And I guess Milwaukee's still right there too. Kind of coasting, and don't forget about Miami. I'm writing a piece now on, and those are the four teams in the East who I really think obviously, I don't think Philly has enough. Simmons and Cleveland, they just lost somebody, Rubio and the Wizards. They feel good, but they're not going to go far. The Hornets, Raptors, the Celtics have been the biggest disappointment besides the Knicks, I guess, or the Hawks. guess either of those three teams has been disappointments, but I don't think any of those three teams are really going to come out the East. But I think the top four teams, the Bulls, the Nets, the Heat, and the Bucks. But yeah.
Yeah, Hawks are. I was watching one of their games, and somebody on that broadcast mentioned how they kind of acted like because they played so well and got so deep last year, they kind of rested on their laurels a little bit here this offseason, and they've kind of shown that early on. They were hoping that they would get kind of turned around here as we head kind of into the second half of the season, maybe kind of get their ship righted a little bit there. But yeah, for the Bulls themselves, I love the way that they're playing. I love the style they play, that freewheeling style that they play. They play lockdown defense on the back end. I love Lonzo. I love what he's brought to that team. You can see between him and Caruso, they've changed the makeup of the team and how they play. Lonzo on the offensive end and Caruso on the defensive end. Lonzo, everybody now is looking for that outlet pass when they get a rebound, and Caruso has spurred them on the defensive end. Everybody's out there looking for cookies, as Stacey would say.
Yes, I love Stacey.
Everybody's out there trying to grab that steal, looking for that turnover, trying to generate those extra possessions. And so those two guys really have kind of changed that culture. And then you add on top of that DeMar DeRozan, who is an MVP candidate. Now, like Stacey says, probably not going to win the award, but he needs to be on the ballot. He needs to be getting votes because him and Zach, but especially DeMar really is kind of, with those two buzzer beaters there on New Year's weekend, really has kind of pushed himself into that conversation. But those three additions have really changed the team that Chicago is. They've really kind of sparked the whole thing. And it's amazing to watch. They're fun to watch every night. They're never out of a game. Even when they get down, they're never out of it. Early on in the season, they'd get down by like 20. And I was like, okay, this one's probably over. That's fine. It's a long season. They'd come roaring back in the fourth and, to either make it really competitive or finally win the game. And now they've kind of come together enough that they don't get down by 20 anymore. They might get down by 12 or maybe even 15, but they're still got enough firepower to come back, make a game of it and then put teams away at the end because of the king in the fourth in DeMar DeRozan. So they've been a really fun team to watch this year, just from the get-go.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Yes, big Game.
So that king of the four fathers reminds me of King of the North. I love Game of Thrones. But yeah, and I completely agree with everything you said. I love Stacey as well, but I love that we got Lonzo. When I heard that we had a chance to get him in off season, they mentioned like Schroeder and they mentioned other point guards. What's the other guy? They used to play for Brooklyn, Spencer Dinwiddie. He's coming. I'm like, no, I want Lonzo because Lonzo's a pass first point guard, and I just knew pairing him along with Zach would take the pressure off Zach, and then Lonzo can also score as well. But then when we got DeMar, I've been watching DeMar since he got drafted. I remember when he played at USC, and I'm like, he's always a good player for Toronto. Remember him and Kyle Lowry could never get over that hump in Toronto. And then he got traded to the Spurs for Kawhi, and then they wanted him in Toronto. So then all of a sudden I was like, well, DeMar's not really that good. He's so-so. And then he played in the Spurs for a while, but he just wasn't happy in San Antonio. Like you had to realize, like if you're not happy and it's just not a good fit, and I know San Antonio's offense the way it is, it just wasn't a good fit. And he was in San Antonio for, those 3 years? He's been in San Antonio for, just as long as Kawhi's been in Toronto. And Kawhi was in Toronto a year. Then he's with the Clippers for this is the 2 years. So 3 years. He was in San Antonio for 3 years. And now he's in the team now in Chicago. Bigger market, obviously, and Billy Donovan's offense too. I love to spread the ball, and it's great, and like you said, like you hit the nail on the head. Like when they get down, I remember I saw them get down a few times, and this year I'm like, they lost. And when I check it, they won by like 4, and I'm like, oh, they came back. I think even in a few games versus Brooklyn, I've counted them out like 5 or 6 times, and when they played the Knicks early on, and they came back and won. It's because the grit and the resolve in this team is good, and I know we're going to be scrappy in the playoffs. And it took I would love to go to a playoff game. I know the energy in the United Center is going to be freaking off the charts. COVID or not, basketball needs to be in Chicago. In the postseason, you need to be. And yeah, I think the East. I think Milwaukee's going to be tough and Brooklyn's going to be tough. But I think if you're only going to go through one of those teams, or somebody, or if not any, they both get taken out, then you can come out the East. Seeing that, you saw Atlanta last year make it to the Eastern Conference Finals,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think they played Brooklyn or Milwaukee. Oh, they lost to Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. And I think Trae Young got hurt in that series. Otherwise, I don't know. I think he was already hurt. Otherwise, I think they could have probably gave Milwaukee more bang for their buck if he was healthy, especially him being a point
they pushed
guard.
him 5
or 6, but he missed a few games. Remember, he got hurt, and I think Giannis got hurt too. I think he went 6. Because I remember Chris Middleton kind of took over those last few games, and then he kind of, or maybe that was the finals. But yeah, they're real, and they're set up really good for the future. I'm not sure what draft picks we have coming up, and I know that we got tampering, but we got our guys in place. DeMar's happy, and DeMar's 32. He's young. He's still got 5-6 years, to play at a high level. I'm not worried about that. And he's never really had an injury. That's another thing with DeMar. He's never really been injured a lot. So I like that. Lonzo,
even his time on when they shut him down for health and safety, he's like, I felt fine.
When did they? You mean the Bulls?
Yeah, for DeMar. Yeah, they shut him down for those 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and he was like, I felt fine. He's like, I was bored.
Yeah, but I remember he was still playing. He's like, I got to play back and shake because he came back and he had 30 his first game back. And I was like, man, that's crazy to come back your first game. And he was like, man, yeah, he was like, I was healthy. I was ready to play. He's determined because a lot of the criticism all season, the Bulls overpaid for DeMar. I saw that a lot too. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, dude, we got DeMar and Lonzo, and we got along with Zach, and then we still have Vucevic, and then we brought in Caruso, and they were even saying the Caruso signing. They said we spent too much for Caruso. No, both of those signings were great. Not these analysts always overjump the gun and speculate and stuff like that. But you see how it's paying off for us. We're top in the East.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would make all those moves all over again. Love every single one of them. I'm in there. The only bad thing that's happened this year, obviously, they've been hit hard by COVID, but so has every other team in the league. Games have been canceled. Those things. The only bad thing really has been Pat Williams. His wrist. That's really the only kind of guy that you really feel like is missing from the team. There's nothing you can do about that. He just landed.
And he's young player, so I want him to get that development. But I think him being able to sit back and kind of watch, for this while, and I hope that helps that his part of the game where he can see ways on the court where he can be effective, because where I'm not out there, but when I am out there, I can do this and do that. Because even before he got hurt, he was taking more of a 3-point shot. He was shooting more threes in summer league, so he was taking that next step, and he was initiating offense. So when he comes back now, he'll get threes. And heck, wait till you see when Lonzo finds him cut into the basket or on oops. Lonzo just don't be where did that pass come from? Lonzo's got crazy vision. He'll be able to feed him and get him easy points and stuff like that. And he doesn't have to score 20 or 30 points.
No.
You can score 8 points for us and just and guard the other dude on the other team and permanent play. And you did a great job. You can score 8 points, probably grab 10 rebounds just based on your activity, a couple steals, just be a pest on defense.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the same point they were making about Vooch the other night on the broadcast is, they're like, yeah, he's getting 12 and 10 or 12 and 15, but they're like, that's exactly what we need out of him. So they're like, we don't need 25. They're like, the nights that he's going to get 25, we'll need 25 out of him. And he's certainly capable of doing that. But most nights we only need 12 and 15 out of him. And that's good enough to get by in a couple of blocks. And that's what you need.
I agree. I've seen Vooch playing more. Vooch was never really a bad defender. A lot of international players get that rep for being bad defenders, but I just don't think defense is really coached as much over there because it's more like D'Antoni pace and kick it out and a running gun. So you're not really playing in a half court set as much. But he's going after it defensively too. And Billy Donovan's always been a defensive minded coach. That goes back to when he was at Florida. And this team now, this team's been built to win now. And now it's heck. Maybe buyout candidates, they might want to come to Chicago. Maybe if one of these teams, cuts their big man, maybe, I might sign with the Bulls just to provide depth and insurance. And if it's a good locker room guy, yeah, let's bring him in there. Let's bring them in there and whatnot, like and it's only going to help this team and the mentality and stuff like that. But yeah,
technically, Ersan Ilyasova is running around on a
oh
health and
yeah,
safety protocol contract, so he is
yeah,
technically on the roster somewhere, even
yeah.
though he's in quarantine as well. So he's a guy that they could spring on you at the All-Star break. So
and he can stretch the floor too. He's a stretch four. He's always been that way, and he's a good roller. So he'd be a guy that can come in the postseason and get us a couple minutes here and there. So I hope he keeps, because I mean he's from Milwaukee. He come in and hit a couple shots and give us 8-10 minutes and just make some plays. And yeah, he's a guy, man. Ilyasova, a couple threes, and maybe a layup or something, 8 points, and just good minutes off the bench. So that was a good pickup, and he's a veteran too. So that's good.
yeah, I like that pickup a lot too. Elise Johnson, they did let go, but Tyler Cook was playing out of his mind.
I'm glad to see Tyler Cook playing good. I've been wanting Tyler Cook to play good. Like I said, I went to Iowa when he went there, and I always say that Iowa players don't develop well, so he left the year early, and he's kind of bounced around, but now he's kind of finding his footing now. So,
yeah, and then the McKinney, they signed him for the rest of the season. Chicago kid, they're really high on him, and like we talked about with Io when he got drafted, perfect fit.
Yeah.
Brings tons of energy. I didn't expect him to be as good as what he's shown, especially on the defensive end. I thought he'd be okay. I thought he'd be like a G League candidate, and he has played lights out. Even if he doesn't score, I don't even care. He goes in there, he drives teams nuts on the defensive end, and he makes good decisions on the offensive end. He doesn't have to score. He's a good enough passer that he's really played outstanding ball here in this first half of the season.
I agree. That's why I said the fact that he's playing so well has made Kobe White expendable so fast. Like, I'm not talking about, you know what? Iowa's playing this first. I mean, if Iowa was in college, he would be his senior year. But now he's playing this year, and he's getting minutes off the bench. I think he's even started a game or two. Mm-hmm. And then next year, when he's 22, going on 23, he's got a year under his belt. Especially this offseason, you can keep refining. And I mean, game, especially Kobe's shooting is really good. And that's not where Iowa's game is at yet. I was more of a slasher and whatnot, but he can hit the three. But Iowa, he'll add, he'll become a more consistent 3-point shooter and do that. And then I think if Iowa shows that next year, I think you will see them move Kobe towards the deadline, and it's a smart thing. Or they might do a sign and trade at the end of the season so they can give him the max. But it's a smart thing to do. But I mean, if you said Iowa just comes in with energy, and they're literally like the same age. They're both like 21. Kobe's 21. Yeah, they're both the same age. So that's just how the nature of the business goes. But Iowa's a hometown kid as well. I didn't know McKinney was a hometown kid, so they mentioned that when he signed him. So I'm glad to see him thriving. I remember him playing in Cleveland for a while, and he's 6'8". He's got some heat on the perimeter. So, yeah. And I like Derek Jones Jr. He can jump out the gym, and he ain't got to score at all. What I'm saying? He'll have a couple of dunks and just make, plays and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got some guys who are selfless. And Derek Jones Jr. is from the Miami Heat, so he brings that culture, and that's another good locker room guy to have. You're in Miami's locker room playing with Jimmy Butler. You bring that mental toughness. You know what it's about.
And the one guy we haven't mentioned, we've gone this far and we haven't mentioned him, and he deserves all the credit in the world, is Javonte Green, who stepped in that power forward.
That was the name I forgot. There we go. That was the name. I couldn't remember. Yeah, there we go. Yep, you're right. Yep. You're right.
Speaking of jumping out of the gym, that man can fly.
Yeah, Javonte Green. I knew it was. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's him. You're right. He's the glue guy. Mm-hmm. In a sense, that kind of just brings everything together. Like so yeah, this team's exciting, and this team's kind of like, all right, like we're gonna be forced to be reckoned with, and our GM's been spot on. So yeah.
Turning our attention away from the Bulls, even though as much fun as they've been to talk about, looking at kind of the rest of the East, the Bucks got off to a slow start, but they've slowly crawled back kind of into that top 3, top 4 spot in there. The Knicks, I thought, was playing pretty well. They were playing pretty well when they played the Bulls. It looks like they've dropped off a little bit. And then the Nets, Kyrie's back for his first game tonight. Evidently, he's going to play part-time in games where you don't have to be vaccinated, in cities and states that you don't have to be vaccinated in. So He's going to be back, and that kind of changes that dynamic a little bit. So, kind of those three big kind of 3-4 teams, who's kind of the team that you're kind of most leery of, or who do you think is the team that's kind of the biggest threat there?
Oh man, I'm here. I'm just checking the score of that game. Speaking of the Nets, I was gonna say they're losing to the Pacers by 14. It's the third, but it's 100-86. But they gave up 100 points in 3 quarters. Kyrie has played. He has 8 points on 3 for 8 shooting. Durant's doing his thing. And I was gonna say Brooklyn just because it's KD and KD's such a phenomenal force. Because I think you can kind of slow Giannis down because Giannis is not as great of a scorer as KD, but KD can get hot. And then Brooklyn also has Harden, and then they also have Kyrie. They have those 3 guys. Brooklyn or Milwaukee, you can kind of maybe wall Giannis, double team him certain points and kind of, take him out, of the game, in the sense, just game plan for him. But you can't really game plan for Durant. I mean, you can't game plan for Durant, Harden, or Kyrie. I mean, you can play the best you can, but I think Brooklyn's probably the team that you got to be most wary of because I think with Brooklyn it doesn't matter what seeding is, they're just that good where they could beat you. I think Milwaukee can be had. We've seen even I think Atlanta those first games in the series were kind of showing that. And even Miami showed 2 years ago, Miami beat them when they didn't think they could. And if you have enough perimeter guys to throw at Giannis and you keep him on the perimeter and not let him get in the paint, then you have a chance versus Milwaukee. But yeah, Brooklyn's a different breed. And then Miami's good too. They're tough. They'll be a tough out, but they don't have anybody that's going to change the course of the series. They know, Jimmy Butler's good, Kyle Lowry's good, Bam Adebayo's good, but none of those guys are going to score or going to average 40 in the series. If they beat you, they'll beat you through team play, through Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. But yeah, Brooklyn's probably the team I'm most weary about. That's why I said I wouldn't want to play Brooklyn until the Eastern Conference Finals and hope that they're beat up, and hope that they have tired legs and whatnot. So
yeah, especially at their age, that's exactly what you're hoping for there. Yeah. Switching over to the Western Conference real quick. We would be remiss if we didn't mention Steph's 3-point record. What is it now? 3,000 hits, something like that. He's the all-time 3-point maker in the NBA history, which is crazy to think about. Especially watching him at Davidson and where he kind of came to the national spotlight from there in that NCAA tournament run till now. To see him kind of grow and mature and hit all those big shots. He's been really fun to watch. Outside of Bulls players, he might be my favorite guy to watch in the NBA.
He decided that team was exciting to watch. An offense, with Draymond and Wiseman, they're a team and they pass the ball and Steph. Yeah, and Steph just he's changed the game. His shooting and because now I see guys now that I play pickup with and they're just pulling up from further past the 3-point line. I'm and you're what are you? And they're hitting these shots and I'm it's frustrating, because you can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes the game good. There's one guy I play pickup with now. He's literally hits everything, and it's we have to be perfect on the other end because he's hitting threes at Steph. And I'm that's if you're a team going up against Golden State, you're man, you got to match Steph. You really can't match Steph though. I mean, when Clay comes back, come on now.
Clay's supposed to be back soon too.
They said Sunday versus Cleveland, and they're taking their time. I think Clay could have came back. I think they're just taking their time. They're just really making sure he's ready and stuff like that. But I think he could have came back I think beginning of the year or so. Probably so they're definitely taking their time and they're probably going to play him a game, hold him out a few days, play maybe play. But he'll be ready for the postseason. And yeah, dude, they're going to be really fun to watch in the postseason. They have a top seed too, and that crowd. And then oh my god! And I think they have Iguodala back. Yeah, Iguodala, Draymond Green, so that core, and they have the young guys. I love their role players like the James Wiseman. I can't think of this. I can't be Elisa, and some of the Jordan Poole. They just got Juan Company. They just have so many role players, and these guys are okay, I can probably take this shot. It's a mid-range shot, but hey, look, Steph's right there. I'm gonna pass him the ball, and he'll probably hit the three. They're so selfless. I wouldn't be surprised if Golden State came out the West. I honestly wouldn't. I bet they have that much firepower, and
I agree. That There are a bunch of teams over there. If the Bulls were in the West, they'd be the fifth best team in the West. That's how good the West is.
Yeah,
Golden State, Phoenix, Utah, Memphis are all 25 plus wins, just like the Bulls.
I don't trust Utah. I just don't see them ever coming out the West. They would need like a stacked team. Like they need. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and the gang, Mike Conley. They need a. I just don't. They'll make the postseason, but I like even I said that last year. They maybe second round, may final Western Conference Finals on an odd year if if they're healthy, but even I that's a stretch. They'll make the second round, might lose in the first round. Phoenix, I don't know. I mean, I think last year they did their thing. I don't know if they're going to come out the West this year either. The Clippers might. The Clippers. I mean, with Kawhi, I think the Clippers will still be pretty good because they have a bunch of Paul George and they got and Kawhi is still a formidable defense and Paul George is still Paul George and they still have some good players around them as well. And who's the
And
other
you might as
team?
well. I mean, you can't count out LeBron and the Lakers either.
Yeah,
Technically,
they've won a few games, but man, the Lakers just look terrible. But I think,
yeah,
man, if Westbrook cuts his turnovers down, then they're fine because then they're not, then their defense isn't going to suffer that much. I mean, they can score more offensively. So the Lakers still have enough good team, but Westbrook just has to cut his turnovers down, or you got to play him off the ball. And the turnovers are just ridiculous, man. I think the other day he had 7 at the
yeah,
half versus the Timberwolves.
yeah.
I mean, they had a 14-point lead, and the Timberwolves were like right there because, and I mean, it's like dumb turnovers that lead to like breakouts, and these are turnovers that let the team in. Like, yeah, you just can't. As at this point in the league, you've been in the league 10+ years, you can't turn the ball over like that and expect to win. That's why you never will win wherever you've been at because you turn the ball over too much. So
Exactly. And I know Anthony Davis got hurt. I don't know if he's back, and I'm not sure how long he's out for.
they said 4 weeks. I think he's still got a couple more weeks.
Okay.
He's always hurt, man. That's
Yeah.
the thing with the Lakers too. Is like you can't build your team around Anthony Davis because he's always hurt. He's the max player, but he's not. It's like injuries, left and right. So yeah, I need to see more from the Lakers before I even take them serious. That's why I wasn't even going to bring them up. They're one of my bottom feeder teams. Like, they just have not shown me anything. And it's tough because like, okay, well, AD's you're supposed to be your number one guy and LeBron's, still, good enough to be your number one guy, but LeBron's 37, you can't be asking him to carry, like you can't he can't carry the team like that anymore. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So somebody else has to step up and be that I don't know that guy or especially if AD's out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Lakers do anything in the deadline.
Yeah. Who moves and where they go to will be very interesting this year, um, in terms of all of that stuff. I'm not quite sure who would be available out there. I'm kind of like looking over the standings right
Yeah,
now. And then there's all kinds of, you just look at this, I remember there's all kinds of turmoil down in Houston that they're doing all kinds of weird crap down there.
they're rebuilding, transitioning. They got these young guys, and they're gonna be good. Christian Wood and what's it, Kevin the Green, Jalen Green, and Kevin Porter Jr. They're I know he's got some things he's got to deal with, like some Um, and then they have a nice young head coach. So I think Houston's going to be a team to watch in a couple of years.
Yeah.
They'll probably get another draft pick this year. So yeah,
You know
another
who's going to
top
be
draft.
really good soon is that Wagner guy from
Oh,
Orlando.
from Washington?
No, from
No,
Orlando.
his brother Mo Wagner. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you see, and he played on the perimeter a lot, so he's
Mhm.
used to playing on the perimeter. So that's talking about when he played at Michigan. He played on the perimeter a lot, and he was 6. He's like
He's 6'11", they
Danilo
said.
a Danilo Gallinari, a 6'10" guy, Chandler Parsons, one of those guys that can stretch the
Exactly.
floor, but he's still, yeah, I know, I'm not surprised. I think as he continues to bulk up and maintain his frame and this and that, yeah, he's going to be really special. I mean, he's in Orlando, yeah, so
Yeah.
he can really blossom in Orlando. I hope he finds himself on another team or something though, because I don't see Orlando really going anywhere anytime soon. They're really young. I mean, they're like kind of like the OKC in the sense. Wendell Carter, Fultz, Jalen Suggs. I think they have another dude, Cole
Yeah,
Anthony.
I mean, they gave the Bulls a fight the other night, and
Yeah,
that's without Suggs, who I really love. So I think
yep,
that they're somebody that I'd be watching here in the next year or two in the East. I think they're going to make a lot of noise.
yeah. A lot of young teams and all that young talent, and then once it all just starts to come together and you learn how to win and to be professionals, I think I agree. Like that's how but we've been kind of saying that about OKC for like the last 3 years. So they've been doing that rebuild, and you kind of haven't really seen it go anywhere. So I mean, you stack all those draft picks, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Orlando does too, because they're probably gonna have another top draft pick too. They probably have a few draft picks coming in from all the trades they made and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they're probably a couple. They're a good veteran piece away from being, one of that 8 to 10 playoff team spot.
yeah,
Going to go in there and make some noise.
they yeah.
You don't want to play in the first round.
Yeah, you're right though. But I've seen them compete hard against other teams too. Like they play hard. I'm not just the Bulls. So when I saw they're up versus the Bulls, I'm like, no, I'm not surprised if Orlando team competes. But I think they played another team. I think it was the Lakers or something recently, and they competed. But they compete. And I think they've even beat some team. They beat one team the other day, and I was surprised they won. It was a pretty good. I think it was a good team, but yeah. NBA's crazy, man. I mean, with all these young players and the way the game's played now and whatnot, you just.
Oh, the jumping back real quick to that Nets Pacers game that you were talking about. Lance Stevens put up 20 in the first quarter tonight.
I know when I went to ESPN, they said he scored 20 points. And I went to click it, I can't watch it on the show. But I saw that, and I'm like, man, that reminded me like Tracy McGrady, 13 points in like 35 seconds. And he scored 20 straight points by himself. Like, I'm like, man, what did he do? Like, I'm going to watch that after this show. But I saw that on ESPN, and that's when I'm like, oh, wow, like they're losing to the Pacers. But the Pacers are actually, no, the Pacers aren't that good this year.
Mm-mm.
They're 14-24. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was just one of those things that he just went nuts from the beginning, and the Nets were probably like, okay, it's not our night, and they just probably just shut it down.
Well, the Nets are only down 3 now, 105, 102. Yeah.
They must have come
That's
back.
They're that, man. The Nets are just that potent with those 3. I mean, it's just Durant's got 33, Harden's only got 16. I mean, Kyrie's probably got 12, and then Claxton's got 10, and Aldridge pitched in with 13. I mean, yeah. But the Brooklyn team does not have a lot of depth. And then I'm surprised this Indiana team's not that much better. Sabonis has been there, Turner. I mean, those two are in Holiday. They lose.
It's like they can't get all their guys to function at the same time. At least from the couple of games I've seen them against the Bulls, it's like one guy's good, and then like the next guy is good the next quarter, but you never get like 2 guys getting hot at the same time or in a long enough stretch to really kind of be effective in there. It's kind of like one guy kind of goes off, and everybody else kind of is just kind of mediocre to bad. Oh, and I lost Sam. All right. We were getting close to the end of the conversation anyway, but really wanted to wrap that up. We wanted to jump back in here just because the Bulls had been playing so well. We wanted to have a show. Oh, there's Sam back. Let me add him real quick. Lost you there, buddy.
Yeah, that was weird. Well, yeah, no, I agree. And I was thinking maybe they lost Malcolm Brogdon. I didn't see him on the roster. Now that's their point guard for the Pacers. I mean, they have a good point guard. I know they got Brogdon from the Pacers or from the Bucks, a few years ago. But yeah, I don't know. It's just they used to always beat the Bulls. Like last year, we could never beat them, and now we beat them all the time this year. I'm like, how the tides just turned. Like them and like Boston, we could never beat those 2 teams. And then now we could beat them. I don't know if we could beat Milwaukee yet, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Anything else you want to talk about before we cut this off, sir?
Nah, nothing else really. I mean, we'll continue to watch and see, but I think we kind of covered everything. And yeah, we'll just kind of wait and see. I think the All-Star game is probably next month or so, but probably just be more of a same for these next couple of weeks or not. So yeah.
Yeah. Somebody was saying to get Javonte Green in the dunk contest, and I want all of that in there.
Yeah, they'll probably
Need to see
have
that man fly.
Ja Morant, and I mean Javonte Green would be a good representative for us too. And I can't think of anybody else, but
I love John Morant. I can't
yeah.
wait to see what he is. He went nuts the other night, and I loved all of that.
They'll probably definitely have him for the star power, and then what is it? And then Javonte Green's another nice. Javonte Green's a young star too, or yeah, young player. So yeah, what is it? A young rising star. So I don't know if he's a star or not, but he's a young player and a young star on a good team. So yeah.
And then the interesting rookies versus second year game. That's usually a pretty good match too. That'd be something.
Remember that year Kobe White didn't even make the rookie game. The All-Star game was in Chicago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, how did he? And he was playing because I would never understand it. I'm like, are we being blackballed from our own hometown All-Star game? And he was playing like good minutes and putting up good numbers on our team as a rookie. He was starting to warm up too. He was playing more and more, and he didn't. And I don't know. I think he got in as an alternate, but I remember he wasn't voted in. I thought that was so weird because the All-Star game was in Chicago, and then we didn't have any All-Star representatives, and nobody from Chicago. I mean, granted, we weren't great, but you could have probably had Zach in as a reserve on the team, or at least had Kobe in the rookie game, or Zach in the dunk or he probably wouldn't have done the dunk contest. But yeah, that was crazy. I'll never forget that.
Zach did the 3-point contest last year, right?
Is that
he did that?
Yeah. There's always so many guys in there. I keep forgetting there's like 10 guys because they like eliminate like 4. I mean, it's like they go through all these rounds. You forget how many guys are in it. But like I think one year the Golden State had like Clay and Steph in it. And then like there was a Clay, Steph, James Harden, and like this guy, that guy, like freaking Jason Capono. And I'm like, man, there's like 10 guys in here. But you only like remember like the guy who wins it, or for the most part.
Yeah, unless somebody has like a crazy round or something like that. Yeah, you really only kind of remember the guy that wins.
Zach could probably make it this year, and Lonzo could be in the 3-point shootout this year too, because Lonzo's improved his 3-point stroke a lot. But I don't know if that's really Lonzo's thing catching it, maybe. But he has improved his stroke, so like his percentage is like uppers closer to 50% now from 3, if I remember correctly. So
yeah. All righty, then that will do it. We'll be back probably. I don't know if we'll be back next week or in a couple of weeks or when we're going to do it. We've been a little bit hit and miss with this show here at the start of the year. But we'll be back here at some point at the All-Star break at the latest, but hopefully before then.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll be back for that. We'll talk a little hoops, maybe talk a little NCAA on the other side of that. Maybe next time, now that conference games are actually getting played, maybe talk a little Big Ten basketball, ACC basketball there. All righty, so that will do it for us. He is Sam. I am Doug. We will see you guys next time. Have a good night.
Peace.